Chair, Conference, greetings from a land with a Labour government. Mae'n bleser mawr I fod yma heddi I gael y cyfle unwaith to i'ch anerch chi yma yn gynhadledd y Blaid Lafur. It's a great pleasure to be here again to have the honour to address you at this year's Labour Party conference. And thank you, Owen, for the introduction and for the work you're doing at Westminster, holding the Tories and the Lib Dems to account. There's a little story I need to tell you about Owen at this stage. When he was first appointed as Shadow Secretary of State for Wales, he came to Cardiff, and we were filmed walking around Cardiff Bay chatting to each other, and all the commentators said they're discussing policy and discussing electoral strategy. We were in fact discussing the best fishing pools in the River Ogmore. So at that point we weren't quite at the stage of deciding what future strategy should be, but Owen is doing a fantastic job in making sure that Wales's voice is heard and the Tories and Lib Dems are challenged at Westminster. You'll hear much during this conference about the harm the Lib Dems and the Tories are wreaking on ordinary families. Up and down the land, their one-size-fits-all approach to welfare reform, the laissez-faire approach to the economy, which has resulted in so many young people being out of work, the iniquitous bedroom tax, which penalises the disabled in particular. Well, I'd like to say, well done, Ed. Your pledge to do away with this morally bankrupt policy will bring hope to 40,000 households in Wales and many more across the rest of the UK which have been blighted by this tax. They have now been offered hope. Let me tell you some of the things that we're doing in Wales as a Welsh Labour government, what we've been doing to stand up for the people of Wales during these difficult times. Our greatest focus as a government has been on jobs and growth, trying to make a difference to the lives of people in Wales and not rely on the failed Tory policies which have blighted the rest of the UK since 2010. As a result of our actions in Wales, things are going in the right direction. Over the last 12 months, employment, unemployment and economic inactivity rates in Wales have all moved in a positive direction and outperformed the UK average. Since 1999, there's been a 101.2% increase in Welsh exports, the fourth largest of any part of the UK, and that compares to an increase of 79.2% for the whole of the UK. Wales is on the up under Labour. On inward investment into Wales, we're transforming the picture compared to some parts of the UK. Over the last 12 months, there have been 67 foreign investment projects for Wales, creating more than 2,500 new jobs and safeguarding another 5,000. Through our Business Starter programme, we've helped establish 6,800 new enterprises, and that's helped create more than 13,000 jobs. Conference, one of the first things the Tories did when they came to power in 2010 was to axe the Future Jobs Fund. By contrast, one of the first things we did when we were elected in 2011 was to introduce a Welsh version of that scheme, what we call Jobs Growth Wales. I'm proud to stand here today and tell you that over the last 18 months we've created 8,500 job opportunities for young people aged between 16 and 24, with 6,500 of those going on to find work, people who otherwise would have been on the Tory scrap heap. Conference, this shows Labour delivering for young people in Wales for the future. When it comes to tackling poverty, we're equally as focused. We're seeing, of course, in England, the cuts to Sure Start. In Wales, we have Flying Start, and by the end of this year, nearly 28,000 children and their families will be receiving support from this programme. It means we're on track to double the number of children benefiting from a better start to life by 2016. Also, Conference, I'm proud to stand here today and tell you that the Welsh Government introduced a support programme for employed workers in Wales who were abandoned by the Tories. Our funding has helped 117 Remploy workers to find new jobs. That's 117 disabled workers who faced redundancy thanks to Tory closures. You see, as a Welsh Labour government, we don't have different policies for the sake of being different. We have different policies because they're right for our people. Right for our young people who need hope for the future. Right for our older people who need security and certainty. Right for our vulnerable people who need a government that cares. Conference, we're building a Wales that's a living, breathing example of what Labour values can achieve when in government. So, what are we doing to make Wales a fairer, more equal country with more opportunity for our people? Well, for a start, when it comes to the NHS, there's no market, no privatisation, no unworkable reform agenda. Our NHS, the Welsh NHS, remains true to Bevan's founding principles and remains true to the ethos that has served it well since its inception. We've kept free prescriptions. We've increased access to GPs. And I'm proud to tell you that we recently passed a new law, which means Wales will have the first opt-out system for organ donation anywhere in the UK. And that has the potential to provide organs to some of the 50 people in Wales who die every year waiting on the transplant list. In education, we've introduced the foundation phase for youngest children, a curriculum based on learning through experience. Despite fierce opposition from the Lib Dems and Tories over many years, we've kept free school breakfast for our children. Yes, Conference, the very same Lib Dems and Tories who last week adopted Welsh Labour policy and will now follow our example in England. We welcome their conversion, despite the fact it's so late. We've kept the education maintenance allowance to encourage our young people to stay in learning. And after the Tory debacle earlier this year, I'm proud to say that we in Wales will retain GCSEs and A-levels as key school qualifications. We won't follow the shambles that Michael Gove has presided over in England. Conference, it's true to say that every day in Wales we see tangible benefits of being a part of Europe. Whether it be helping farmers and rural communities, increasing skills, creating jobs and improving research and innovation at our universities. Thanks to EU money, we've helped 50,000 people across the whole of Wales into work and nearly 140,000 to gain qualifications. EU funding has invested £110 million in some 500 businesses, helping them to grow and to create jobs. Europe is Wales's largest trading partner, with over 600 firms across the country exporting goods and services worth around £5 billion every year to other EU countries. And there are about 150,000 jobs in Wales that depend on that trade. Conference, Wales cannot afford to leave the UK, but Wales cannot afford to leave the EU. As the First Minister of a Welsh Labour government, I'm also proud of our strong links with the trades union movement in Wales. We see trades unions as crucial social partners, just as we do with the CBI, for example. In Wales, we work with all sectors of Welsh society to make Wales a better and more prosperous place for all of us, whether they be employer or employee. We've worked with the trade unions to improve the lives of our people at a time when working people are under threat. More than ever, they need trades unions to defend them. When it comes to workers' rights in Wales, I'm proud of the various stands that my government has taken over the last 12 months. If you remember, one of the first things the Tories signalled when they came to office was their intent to scrap the Agricultural Wages Board. And in England, they've already done it. But in Wales, as a Labour government, we decided not to accept this. And we now have passed legislation to protect the wages of over 13,000 farm workers in Wales, a Welsh Labour government standing up for workers. When the Tories tried to undermine UK wide pay arrangements by floating the idea of regional pay. We knew that for thousands of public sector workers in Wales and in England, such a move would mean less money for some of the lowest paid workers in the UK. Not only did we say no in Wales, we backed up our message of opposition with hard facts and hard evidence that destroyed the UK government's case to force it through. Again, a Welsh Labour government standing up for workers. And more recently, Conference, I'm proud to say, we've taken action to stamp out the heinous practice of blacklisting. Last week, we issued a procurement advice note, very snappy title, to all Welsh public bodies, making clear those circumstances where they can exclude blacklisters from bidding for public contracts in Wales. We know that blacklisting has ruined the careers and livelihoods of good, decent trades unionists all over the UK. In Wales, we've said, enough. In Wales, there is a government that is standing up for the rights of workers. We have in Wales a Labour government. We need a Labour government in Scotland with Joanne as First Minister, and we need a Labour government in London with Ed as Prime Minister. Because we know it's by working together we can give people hope. We can show that there's a better way. We can lead the way to a fairer and more prosperous Britain. In Wales, because of the bedroom tax, there are 40,000 good reasons to elect a Labour Prime Minister. So, Conference, let 2015 be the year to give hope to our people, and let 2015 be the year to win. Thank you.